You guys can hear me. I'm back after a few weeks, and we're here tonight for round 8 in Division 1, and we're racing around Le Castellet in France. Yeah, sorry for the absence. Had a few hardware issues, let's say, and that just meant that no one could stream, sadly, but they're all sorted now, so we're back. And I will get you guys some telemetry and stuff once I'm able to, because right now I can't seem to be able to do anything. And I hope the lobby's not broken, which is a possibility on this game. There we go. Okay, nice. I don't like putting telemetry, but I know some of you guys like watching it, so there you go. And let's do tufts. Alright, so it looks a bit cloudy. I'm not sure if there's going to be any rain. I hope the guys don't tell me, because I do like a bit of a surprise. I think we're good for now. I'm not going to open the Division 1 chat because I do not want to know what's happening. So you see the first car, the Mercedes out on track. This race should be a good one, I think. You can overtake, but the last sector can be a bit tricky to follow. But these guys should be pretty close when it comes to fighting. I only got 13 drivers, sadly. I will try and get standings up. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my bearings once again. Give me 2 seconds, guys. But I think I'll let you guys ride on board with someone. Let's see, we have Rowan in the Alpine out right now, and we have Bombastic Chris in the Mercedes out as well. And can I just say, the new car models and some of the updated liveries do look very nice now, especially like the Mercedes, because they finally changed the rear wing. The other one was a bit too fat, in my opinion. Okay, what was I doing with the standings? Let me just get those up now, and I will read those out to you guys, because we have been away for a while, and I'm guessing some of you guys don't know what the situation is. So give me 2 seconds. I've got them up now. Position 1. So let's see. We have Rowan in P1, Guyton in P2, MGK, Kian, Marius Formula, Maui, McLeod, Lumi the reserve, even though he doesn't get 4 points, he's still in the top 10, funnily enough. David, Mr. Psycho, QRT Ian, who's a reserve, Provitax, Sadie, Bombastic, Randy, Chike, Mali, Jimmy, Fleckers, Jonah, Ryan, Burrell. So those are the standings. I do not have my laptop, so I cannot give every detail, sadly. Let me see. Okay, there we go. You see, Chris will be the first one to start a lap. Let's ride on board with him. I really hope that we've got the ready still, which is very annoying. But let's go on board with Chris on his lap. He's approaching turn 1 now. You kind of want to brake just as you get to that outside curb, get it nicely rotated, goes into turn 2, and get a nice exit there. This bit you want to rev out 7th gear, or he goes up to 8. Brake at the 50-meter board, gets it nicely in. You want to really ride this curve and open up this corner here. Goes a bit wide of the apex, but if you can carry that minimum speed into this last turn 7 corner, 6 and 7 corner, then that's not too bad, because you have this really long sector 2 straight now. How many Ks you can go down this straight? 327, 328, 330 Ks down the straight. Brake is just at the end of that, that curve, sorry. 4th gear throws it in nicely. You really want to ride the outside of this curve. Doesn't mind the too much actually. So on that curve you can turn just easy flat in these bars. Nicely thrown in there. And now turn 11, the long sweeping right hander, the outside tyres on the left will be screaming now. Goes a bit wide of the apex, track still getting rubbered in a bit, and now this tricky turn 12. Got to be really careful on the traction here, maximise the width of the track, doesn't invalidate, which is good, and now turn 13, more like right little sweep and throws it into turn 14. Late apex there, and then 15, the final corner goes wide of the apex there. His tyres are really hot, I can see they're around 96 degrees there, as he's now approaching the line. What's it going to be as a banker? It's going to be a 130.8. I believe we have Rowan behind that will be finishing a lap, so he's invalidated. We have a Ferrari actually. Is that Lumi? No, he's boxed. It must be Mali then. What's Mali going to do? MGK goes 4/10 quicker than Chris there, and Matty goes a tenth behind Chris and 5/10, half a second behind MGK. We have Fleckers actually in the McLaren about to finish off a lap into turn 15. He goes, gets an apex nicely there, picks up the power decently, using all the exit curves there. Now the straight up to the straight. Sorry, I can't bear that engine revving, man. It's absolutely horrendous. Fleckers can't go quicker. He is 30.9. Let's see who else. We have the Red Bull actually of Guyton, P2 in the championship, if I remember correctly. What's he going to do as he's now approaching the line? Let's go on Randy at 31.5, and Psycho goes into provisional pole right now, but then instantly beaten by Guyton in the Red Bull. We have Jonah in the Alpine P4. Sorry, these guys are tumbling times very quickly there. Marius one with the 2 Red Bulls. If I remember correctly, a very dominant duo there, almost a bit like in real life. We have the Alfa Romeo, who's invalidated sadly. We have Rowan going again, but he's also invalidated this lap, which is not what you want to do. I think David is starting his lap now. There we go. So it's on all the entry curve there. It's a nice run through into turn 3 now. He goes, break up the 50-meter board, ride all that inside curve, open up this corner for turn 5, gets the apex there nicely. Be careful on this exit curve. Now running into turn 6. As you see, that exit curve, you've got to be really careful, unsettling the car, as you guys just saw now. I believe he's still going to continue on the track. It's worth getting a banker lap in and getting that time a bit later down the line. He's now going to approach into turn anyway. He's going to brake just at the start of that curve. Very good job there. Goes a bit deep though, using all the inside curves there, not touching the outside curve too much. You saw his car was unsettled a bit. Now he's still running turn 10. 8 gear through here. 304 Ks, I want to say 300 Ks into here, and now into turn 11. Can he get a decent apex? Goes wide, now comes in. Can he get all the way in? He's just about gets in, but as you can see, asking too much of the tyres there, and then losing the whole car. That's what happens if you try and aim for that apex a bit too late. You just add too much degree of rotation, and the car just slides. It's too much for the car to handle. Lumi, I think he's about to box. I'm not sure if he's actually on an out lap, so maybe he's about to start one in the Ferrari. Nice to see Lumi back as a reserve. So he's going straight into the box there. Let's see, I think we have a Mercedes about to go onto track. Is it Chris? I'm not too sure. Chris is bombastic, of course. I'm not too sure. Let's see. Yes, it is Chris in the Mercedes. Second set of softs, weaving the tyres a bit. I have noticed that a lot of drivers opt to weave on their out laps, but I found that you can just coast around the track and gain the temperature. Everyone has their own strategy, so, and these guys are quicker than me, so I'm not going to say too much. I can just offer a bit of advice, let's say. And we also have Rowan invalidating his first run, so hopefully he can keep it going on the second run and not invalidate or extend. Posting very nicely. His tyres are already at 80 degrees, so that's a good little warm up so far. You can scrub the last sector and get the tyres into the temperature window. Sorry, I am back. Audio things first. We are just for audio, hopefully you guys can all hear me. Chris is about to start a lap in the Mercedes. A lot of the drivers are actually on their out laps right now. Chris is the first one to start his second run. Gets a bit of a wheel spin in the final corner, so not going to help his straight line speed into turn 1. But let's try and board it in now. Braking, yes, just on the start of that entry curve, sorry. That's a better run through there right now. So good job into turns 1 and 2. Heading into turn 3, braking at the 50-meter board, nicely gained, goes onto all the curves, hugging the left seconds, and you come to left on the inside there. And looking at the corner, see how the car rides it like a skateboard on that exit curve there. You can easily lose the car, but he did a decent job to not lose it, but that's definitely rocking a bit of time. I think it's kind of 330k, so a lot of the drivers hitting around 330k down this straight. So I think a lot of them are running similar downforce levels. Also on the exit losing the car massively, so struggling to traction with Chris's. Maybe something to do with the balance, I'm not too sure, because the 10's going to be up right now on this lap. 303k through there, so he's able to carry a bit more minimum speed into turn 10 there, and 11 gets a better run, actually hits the apex there. You've got to make sure he doesn't encircle the car, especially on the exit there. He does a decent job there, and now into the tricky turn 12, using all the exit curves, making sure he doesn't invalidate, doing a very good job keeping his tires just within the limits there, and now turn 14. Late apex, actually hugging the whole of the apex there, and then now gets the apex nicely, not missing it like last time, getting a decent run and out the exit now. What's it going to be as he approaches the line? It's going to be P5 so far, so only 4/10 improvement. Let's see, we have now finally setting a good time, but he's still 4/10 behind the top pack. I mean the top two there, as Jonas actually spun on his lap, which is not what you want to see. Mali invalidates. Fleckhaus in the McLaren on his lap right now, but he's also invalidated. Sorry, I did miss that. Randy, can he improve? He does improve a 30.9, but still a long way off the ultimate pace there. Jimmy in the hash. Let's see what he can do. Get the apex. Just goes a bit wide of the apex. Car walking away a bit there, but not too bad as long as he's carried that speed. What's going to be as he approaches the line? It's going to be P4, 30.2. So very good job there from Jimmy. Nice work. David in the Alfa Romeo, about to finish his lap. It's a good run. Will he get the apex? Just kissing the apex. Doesn't want to unsettle the car too much. And now he's got that run to the line. Now what's it going to be? The only person to not set a lap time. So what's his first time going to be? A 30.2. So very good lap there from David. Nice job. Randy going for a little spin. Psycho goes into provisional pole position right now in the Alpha Tauri. Just pipping Guyton and also Marius Formula. The two Red Bulls really close, and then the Alpha Tauri just a bit more ahead of them too. So almost say it's a Red Bull 1, 2, 3 right now. See if there's anyone else now. Lumi in the Ferrari on his second run now. Approach into turn 8 and 9, actually going straight on. I don't know if you condone straight lining corners, but yeah. Formula on his second run now. What's it going to be as he goes into turn 8 and 9? Gets a really good entry in there, carrying that speed. He was a bit losing the car a bit in there in mid-apex, just hitting that curve a bit too hard. But now he's going to be up 2 tenths down, so definitely that little moment there did not help his time. Let's see if there's anyone else up on a lap. If not, we can just ride on board with him, because I think everyone's just waiting now for their final runs on this track. Currently, right now, we have Psycho, Guyton, Marius Formula, the top 3, Rowan P4, David P5, Jimmy P6, MGK P7, Louis P8, Bombastic Chris 9, Jonah 10, Mali 11, Randy Code 12, and Fleckhaus 13. So, I think the only car on track is Jonah. He should be boxing, I believe. Actually, no, he's on a lap, so sorry, I thought he was on a lap there. The apex nicely there, not trying to speed, but then picking up the power nice and early, getting that DRS. Now what's it going to be as he approaches the line? I think it's going to be a late 30.6, so mid 30 actually, P10, so not much of an improvement. He also is cutting the corners, yeah. So got a bit of a low period. I think we might see Fleckhaus here. Fleckhaus is out on an out lap right now. But I believe a lot of these drivers may wait till the last 3 minutes to go out on track, maybe leave a bit of margin in case they invalidate, which is of course easy to do around this track. You're always on the limit, especially in high-speed corners. So it's always a bit of a task trying to keep it within the track at such high speed. dehydrated. And I think... Yep. Fleckas in the McLaren about to start off his lap now. We get a good exit out of the final corner. Yes, he does, pinning the power nice and early, picking up that DRS. And now he's about to start his final run, I believe, in this session. Jonah done for qualifying. I think that's the best he can do. 50 into turn 1, carrying 50 into turn 2, able to pick up the power nice and early there. 78 as he approaches turn 3 now. Brake at the 15 meter 4, using all that inside curve now, hugging the left here to open up this right-hander, kissing the apex. Don't want to ride this outside curve too hard. Now into turn 6, gets to exit nicely, a purple first sector according to the game. Turn 7 nice and easy flat once we've got turn 6 sorted out. DRS now, let's use top speed as he approaches turn 8 here. 328, 330, so he's just about braking perfectly there, using all that inside curve. Open up this little right-hander here, using all the exit curve there. Very committed through that little chicane there. Good job there from the Fleckas. What's it going to be? 2 tenths up for this time. Not a purple middle sector, but still gaining 2 tenths right now. So that's a very good job from him so far. He's approaching turn 11 right now, hugging the inside first. Will he pick up the late apex? Just kisses it a tiny bit there, not being too risky on the exit curve there. Now into the tricky turn 12, getting the apex nicely there. Will he maximise all the width? Yes, he will. Keep it just about in balance. His car snapping away just a tiny bit as his tyre temperatures are increasing. And now into turn 14, he's doing a good job there. Can he get final apex? Just about gets the final apex there. And now the run to the line. What's it going to be in the McLaren? Fleckas will go up. Will he go up? Will he go up? Yes, he will. 2P8, 30.4. A very good mid-time there. Mid-time, sorry. Very good time to put him in the midfield, in the top 10. Let's see which one of our leaders is going to be first to set a lap. I think it's going to be Psycho, but let's see if there's anyone else just about starting a lap. I believe we will have a McLaren of MGK about to start a lap. Yes, we will. So I'll try not to miss any of the top 3 drivers or top 4 drivers on their laps, but try and give you guys some action as well at the same time. I think 2 Ferraris are swapping positions there, maybe trying to slipstream, not too sure. MGK now approaching turn 1, same order of business. 4th gear here actually for this McLaren. 5th gear on the exit there, running really wide and invalidating straight away. So just that extra torque demand mid-apex, it just causes his car to walk away from the apex slightly there. Lumi, the first Ferrari on track right now, so maybe not a slipstream, but just swapping positions to give Lumi a bit more of a clear track. And actually now we have Psycho about to start a lap. We have the Red Bulls, both about to start a lap, but we're right on board with Kyson and T2 so far. Maximum commitment into turn 1. Braking a bit later than I've seen from the other drivers, so good job there. Not hassling the track limits too much here, hugging the left-hand side. Not wanting to add a bit more scrub while he's in those little straights there. Hugging this left-hand side nicely. Will he get the apex using a bit more of the apex there and able to really rise the turn 6 engine curve? Purple section 1, 18 milliseconds up right now as he's now approaching the straight here, picking up the DRS nicely. What's his top speed going to be on this straight? A bit less of a top speed actually. Just hitting 330 towards the end there. Riding aboard with it now, using all that inside curve there, hugging this bit as well, and really committing to the exit curve there. What's his going to be into sector 2? It's a 10th and a 3rd up. Purple middle sector, so a very good job from the Red Bull here. Currently in track 4 provisional pole. Let's see what his Psycho's doing. Psycho's actually backed out, so I think that's his qualifying good. His teammate is only 59 milliseconds up to Guyton in a very good position here for pole position. Not being challenged by the exit curve there. Very good job. We've got a bit of a McLaren in front, but it shouldn't affect him too much into this. Keeping it just on the white line there. Very good job. Hugging this right-hander here. Not wanting to add a bit more scrub. Now into the final corner. Kissing the apex nicely there. Picks up the power nice and early. So much commitment through that final corner. Especially when the tyres are really hot. And I think Guyton has pole position. Yes, he does. 2 tenths ahead of Psycho. Psycho not going to be able to improve because it's no more time in the session. His teammate, what can Marius Formula do now? In the Red Bull, is it going to be a 1-2 lockout? It is going to be a Red Bull 1-2 front row lockout here in France. Let's see if there's anyone else. David in the Alfa Romeo, can he do anything better? P4 for the Alfa Romeo there. Chris in the Mercedes. He's, I believe, the last. No, Randy is still finishing on his lap, but he will be the last person to finish his lap here. Chris getting the maximum of the track conditions. Actually, he's backed off, so he's not doing a lap. My bad. And that is qualifying done, I believe, my friends. Red Bull lock out the front row here. Like I said earlier, these guys are almost as dominant as in real life. Some of the quickest drivers. And yeah, both teammates very nicely. Chris giving us a bit of a show, flexing his little Fanatec wheel. But yes, we will run through the grid positions now. As you can see, we have the Dutch driver of Guyton on pole position. Marius Formula P2, his teammate in the Red Bull. Mr. Psycho in the Alfa Tauri P3, and then we have David, Lumi, Jimmy, Rowan, MGK, Fleckas, Chris, Jonah, Randy, and Mali rounding out that top 13. Looking at the top 7, all separated by 4/10, looking very tight up there. Lumi doing a very good job in the Ferrari. I've heard and seen some standout reserve roles from him, so we can call him the super sub of URL, as we've got the little countdown for the race. All the drivers will be picking their tyres. I believe it's an easy one-stop medium, hard, hard, medium, but maybe some of these guys will try something different, like a medium, medium, soft or something. Of course, with the new update, a lot of these drivers can get 2 sets of mediums to the race, which is a really nice thing that they finally implemented. I'm not sure why it wasn't there from the start of the game. But yeah, I don't know if there's going to be any weather in the race. It's sunny right now. I can see some few clouds in the horizon, but that's always like it here in the Castellet, where they have mountains and stuff around. Got 20 seconds left on the clock. No formation lap, of course. So these guys will not have any issues on the before the start of the race, hopefully. Take one quick swig of water. Gotta stay hydrated. We've got the 5 red lights now. I will try and give you guys the tyres quickly. It's 5 lights right now. And away we go. All these drivers on the hard tyres. Let's see what this Red Bull can do. The Red Bull not challenging right now. Up behind, we have the Ferrari of Lumi trying to go down the inside of the Red Bull here. So he had a very good start. Currently up into P3, David P4. So I believe he's staying in the same position, but Rowan dropping down to P5. So not the best of starts. But Guyton having a very good launch. And now this Red Bull of Marius Formula challenged by the Ferraris and the Alfa Romeo there. David trying to look around the outside there, not making it work. I don't know if you got a warning for track limits, because if you take that yellow bottle out, you are very inside the track there. So we'll see. As I believe Jonah has had a bit of an issue, and also Psycho ALB has also had an issue. So these guys, Psycho was in P3 now, down in last place there. Hopefully he'll be praying for a safety car of some sort, as we just saw there. A bit of fighting there between the top, between P3, 4 and 5. And right now, nothing interesting happening. But yeah, Jonah and Psycho right at the back there, they're going to be praying for a safety car. But it won't be too hard for them to catch up this pack, because obviously when you're following other cars, you're running slower than guys in free air. So maybe those two can slowly creep up to the back of the pack. It's not that impossible, let's say. And actually, Marius Formula trying to challenge his teammate, but actually Lumi under attack from David there in the Alfa Romeo. I cannot deal with going on board, guys. This revving glitch is very annoying. But actually, Lumi managed to catch up in the 3rd sector, and Marius Formula now 3/10 behind his teammate, and the gaps are looking very similar there. I don't see any action going on behind, so we'll stay on with this front 4, 5, 6 drivers actually. So now on to lap 2. Everyone on the hard tyres, I believe everyone's just going to opt for that even one stop. And as I was just saying, look at Jonah and Psycho on the map. They are catching to the back of the pack very quickly. So hopefully they don't have too many issues in terms of not overtaking but catching up. Just gotta make sure they don't push too hard. And right now I don't see any moves going on in the pack. No one's really close enough to mount an attack. The only thing I can see is David right on the back of Lumi here. And the two Red Bulls not being able to check out right now. So looking like a lot of these drivers have very similar race pace up front. But David's very close to the back of Lumi there, 210 as they approach turn. We'll go through turn 10. David really try something into turn 11. It's going to be very hard to do so. Not going to try anything just yet. And let's see if there's anything else going on. Nothing. So he's only backlaying right now. Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to catch my breath quickly. 2 seconds. Yeah, now back. Okay. Maris Hormler saying the quickest time of the race so far, 34.6, right on the back of his teammate. Lumi able to pull up a bit of a gap from David there, but still David losing, actually having a massive moment on the exit of turn 2 there, and that's just going to invite Rowan to slowly come in. And you see riding a water in. Mr. Psycho doing the fastest lap of the race in that free air. Now he's actually right behind Jonah there, so I'm guessing those two will swap positions. Psycho having a lot more pace in qualifying, as you guys saw. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping to see a lot more overtakes, but they're just all in a DRS train, which is almost like F1 Esports, which says status quo. I don't think the two Red Bulls are going to be trying to fight each other too hard because they do not want to risk losing a 1-2 there, but maybe they'll start to fight a bit later in the race when the pack maybe spreads out a bit more. But David not able to challenge Lumi here. The Red Bull Maris Hormler extremely close into turn 11. They're not able to do anything about it so far. Let's see the energy situation actually. Guyton actually on 100%, so not deploying anything. The Red Bull behind the Maris Hormler on 92, Lumi on 55, and David on 30, Rowan on 71, sorry. So doing a good job for the battery there. Not too bad. I'm very surprised to see that both Red Bulls up front are not having to deploy anything, especially Guyton. He's been able to stay ahead of his teammate and not deploy anything. I'm guessing they're just both working together, not trying to make sure that they don't fight and lose a lot of time. And Psycho now in the DRS gap of Jonah. So we could potentially see a move here because Jonah has not got much to defend with in his battery. Psycho on 50% actually and Jonah on 70, so Jonah has a 20% delta towards and a 20% delta in ERS compared to Psycho. So maybe Jonah can use a bit more of his battery to defend. Jonah gets a 3-second time penalty on lap 4. Like I said, it is pretty easy to do around this track, especially on the heavy fuel when the car's just understeering and lazy, and it's not responding to your inputs as easily. It's very easy to get a penalty at the start of the race, but obviously that's not something you want to do, especially when it's only on lap 4 and the other drivers haven't got a penalty yet. The Red Bulls only 2/10 gap between them. Lumi still got David behind. David actually falling away a bit, so Lumi slowly coming into his own here, maybe just biding his time at the start, and now he's going to slowly try and pressure the Red Bulls a bit more. But the Red Bulls do have a lot of ERS to defend and play around with. Maybe they could even coordinate a little swap, and Lumi going very aggressive into that final corner and is braking, but losing a bit of time actually. I think a tenth there, a dead here, and actually the Red Bulls will be swapping position. It does seem like they're doing this tactically, so the Red Bulls working together and Jonah getting a 5-second penalty and retiring. So there are two Red Bulls teammates working together there. You could easily see that they were just coordinated the swap and they're going to fight it out a bit later in the race. So that was nice to see. Lumi now lost a bit of time in that first sector there, losing about a 1/10.5 to the two Red Bulls up front. So the Red Bulls doing a very good job to coordinate the swap there. And I don't think David has got has got nothing. No, he does not. And I don't see any battling at the back so far. Actually, Chris has fallen off the pack a bit, has he? No, he hasn't. He's still around there, roughly. Okay. Actually, he goes very deep as I ride on board with it. And so does Randy. So now this is going to allow Mali to try and overtake, maybe. But Mali not able to do much. I don't think he's going to push his ERS too hard here. But Randy going right off the track there. And now actually Mali trying to go down the inside into turn 11. Can he do it? They can go side by side into turn 12 now. Chris may have the advantage on the inside here because on the outside you just lose too much traction and too much time. I think Mali will get a warning for that little track limits there as well. And those two are doing some good racing there, not crashing too hard. Mali physically pushing him through turn 14 here. And now turn 15. Not able to get an overtake on, but he's actually going to be deploying a bit here just to try and make sure that he can stay nice and tucked up behind Chris. I don't see any fighting up front. We can still afford to ride on board with this battle here. Don't see any fights. This is the closest battle on track right now. The Ferrari of Mali right behind the Mercedes of Chris. And then he just saw flat out. And Chris going very slowly through here, so I'm guessing this overtake shouldn't be too hard for Mali in there. We'll ride on board with him. Deploys ERS. So does Chris. Then stop. Chris, I don't think will defend too hard, but Mali doesn't have enough straight line speed. Will he try down the inside? He is going to try stick his nose in a bit. Chris doing a very good job to leave in space. But then this just means Mali can get a better run on the exit here. Chris going very well, losing the car almost like he did in qualifying there. And just Mali not able to push past him, sadly there. And I think just Chris is getting that help from the DRS from Randy. So Randy being a good friend to Chris and just giving a bit of DRS. Actually, no, sorry. Mali now trying down the inside once again, but not close enough and not having enough of a run to be able to do that. The gaps up ahead are starting to spread out a bit. Lumi now 7 tenths behind David, 8 tenths behind Lumi, and Rowan around that half-second mark, which we saw a bit earlier. So I think Lumi just trying to save a bit of his tyre, save a bit of his battery now, and maybe go for a push again. But the two Red Bulls have remained swapped, and actually Guyton is now 6 tenths behind his teammate. Maybe Guyton not having the ultimate race finish right now, and now Lumi is now 5 tenths behind that Red Bull now. So the gap's staying very similar. I think Guyton will push a bit more of the CRS to try and make sure that he can stay a bit ahead of Lumi but not push his teammate too hard. Two Red Bulls working quite nicely together, unlike Interlagos in real life, let's say. But I think they're a bit okay now, two Red Bull drivers in real life. Lumi now lost that DRS, and that's just going to allow David to now start to push for an attack on the Ferrari here. I don't think he's going to do it into this corner. The move is not on there, so smart racing there from David. But now that Lumi's lost that DRS, look at David now. He's going to have that ultimate slipstream from Lumi. Lumi will not only have to be able to defend with his ERS. He's got a bit more ERS than David there, but it would be very easy for Lumi to deploy whatever advantage he has compared to David, because he doesn't have that DRS anymore, and that's not what you wanted, especially with how tight these guys are. And he gets a big snap there on the exit of turn 11 there, into turn 12 they go, and the two Red Bulls are still outside that DRS zone behind Lumi. So doing a good job there to keep that gap. I think the pace of a lot of these drivers are very similar, but like I said, once you get out that DRS, it's going to be very hard to get it back in there. And Lumi trying his hardest probably to try and get in, but his gap's now 1.3 seconds. Every DRS straight, that front car will be able to pull away because he has the DRS, so he will be gaining this huge crucial tenths on the straights. And Lumi gets a massive snap on the exit of turn 2 there, and that's going to allow David, maybe Rowan, to get in as well. Yes, he has. And Lumi losing 2 positions just because of that little snap there. Being very cautious not to rejoin the track dangerously, but now that has meant that he's dropped 2 positions, and this will just invite the two up ahead to now fight and maybe push on as well. As you can see, I think his tyres are struggling a bit of tyres, I'm not too sure. He had some massive snaps there, and look at that, the front two, these two now pulling away. Rowan going to try and go down the inside, into turn 8 they go. There's enough room on the inside there, but can Rowan hang it around the outside? It's going to be very hard, gets enough space there, and now it's going to be an ultimate drag race into turn into turn 10, and Rowan just gets ahead into turn 10, so having a bit more straight leg speed, probably deploying a lot more of his pack. And now David trying to go around the outside. Can he make it work? No, he can't. Lumi being very cautious there, trying to make sure he doesn't get collected. And actually now Lumi going down the inside, and David going off the track there. And these two battling now into turn 12. It's going to be very hard to hold it on the outside, and now Lumi's gone off the track as well. It's very hard to pick up the traction. And actually these two have now crashed. A lot of RG, bargy racing going on. And will David join the track safely? He does. I don't think he joined it safely, because that's now affected MGK. And now that's meant that David has kept position. And now that's just meant that the gap between the cars behind has now opened up a bit. And MGK now having to defend from Jimmy because of that incident. Mali deciding to retire from the race as well, not from the season that he would want, obviously moving to wheel now, so still trying to find a lot of pace and consistency, I believe, and that's just opened up the pack a bit more, because now David has gained a lot of an advantage and now can still fight with Rowan, but that's just meant that Lumi's now lost another 2 positions because of that fighting. We'll see what the stewards say after that. Obviously Lumi are reserve, but it does mean that we still let every driver have a fair chance, regardless of if they're a reserve or not. But Rowan and David now fighting. Rowan losing the car. I'm not sure if there was contact, but now Rowan also losing 2 positions. Jonah leaving the session. Thank you for being here, I think. And now, what's this? Rowan and Lumi now fighting into turn 11 they go. Nothing to do. And Rowan losing the car and going off the track, and also Lumi lost the car a bit, so not sure if there's contact. I couldn't see because of the camera angle, and that's just meant that Rowan has now dropped from P5 to P9 now, and Lumi P8 and P3, and the guy that's come off nicely is David. But this now has meant that the 2 Red Bulls are now 4 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. They're free to do whatever they want as long as they don't fight like crazy. They can just check out from this race. Lumi's decided to retire from this race as well. Thank you for coming. I'm sure he's not going to be happy with some of the driving standards out there, but we'll let the stewards work that one out. As now we only have 10 drivers left in this race. We're on lap 10 so far. Let's see. So we have David, the only one with 5 seconds. I believe that was from that corner, massive corner cut he did when him and Lumi had that crash, collision, let's say. And now those 2 Red Bulls now 4.2 seconds ahead. I think they're going to swap. Are they going to swap? Yes, they have swapped. So coordinating another swap between the 2. I think they're both just working together to try and help pull away from the rest of the pack. Also just keep their ERS in good check. The gap 4.2 seconds remaining. MGK now right behind David there. I'm not sure if David has any damage. I don't think he does, looking at the car. So it seems okay. But now MGK and Jimmy now right behind that Alfa Romeo, fighting for P3 here. And wow, like in the last 3 laps, we had the guys fighting for P3, 2 of them out, and now David's only 1 left from that fight, and now he's got 2 cars right behind him once again. We'll let the stewards work that one out. But yeah, MGK hops second behind, Jimmy also hops second behind, and Randy in P6 in the Aston Martin. Chris also hops second behind him. Rowan needing to find some time now to try and catch up to these 2. These 2, I'm sure, will have a nice battle. I know they're in a party chat, so I'm sure there's going to be some. I hope they don't coordinate some fun, but they have some good battles, let's say. MGK still hops second behind. I'm not sure. Let's see the ERS situation. He's up for David on 40%, 30% for ahead. MGK on 25, and Jimmy on 20%. So all similarly matched. Obviously MGK can use less ERS because he's got that DRS to try and attack David. Maybe the best strategy right now for MGK is to try and gain some battery before he mounts an overtake, because he's got that DRS, which means that he can recoup a lot more of his ERS on the straights because he's not having to do more work on the engine. But we'll see what the strategy is there. MGK using a lot of the inside curve there. I think that unsettled the car just a bit, and he's lost a tiny bit of time that he would have gained on the straights, but not too much. The Red Bulls now 4.6 seconds ahead in 1 and 2, almost a bit like real life. The Red Bull dominance this season translating into Division 1 here. they're slowly pulling away from the rest of the drivers here in a league of their own. Psycho now 1.4 seconds behind the McLaren of Fleckas, but he's still got a long way to go. I mean, if you look at the map there, there's almost 4 different types of races going on. The front two, this battle for P3, and the battle for P6, and then the battle for P8. And they all have their little individual gaps there. So it's going to be a long race still for Psycho. He's going to be praying for a safety car, but obviously these drivers don't really cause down the safety cars, as Fleckas gets a 3-second time penalty. So it's going to be very hard for Psycho there, as the gap still remaining around half a second, 6/10 between David and MGK, and a further half second back to Jimmy in the Haas. So I think it's going to remain status quo just for a little while. MGK being able to recoup a lot of his battery on that last lap, around 9-10% there, so that's a good job there. But David has also recouped the same amount, but Jimmy's had to deploy a lot, so I'm not sure if Jimmy can keep up this pace of the front two, and he's having to deploy a bit more ERS just to stick with them. Obviously that middle car gets the most advantage in a DRS train because he's getting that ultimate slipstream from the car ahead, but Jimmy is getting less of a slipstream effect than the car behind, that third car in the train, just because that middle car is able to pull in a lot quicker and a lot closer to that front car. I think that made sense. I hope it did. I can tend to ramble on quite a bit. The gap now for the front two, 5 seconds, sorry. They're just going to check out, I think, and they're going to do their battling a bit later on in the race. Good teamwork there. MGK actually lost a lot. I'm sorry, Fleckas has actually lost a lot of time. Psycho has now lost a lot of time to Fleckas. The gap was around 1.4, now it's 2.6. So I think Psycho's made a mistake there. Yeah, just couldn't get my words out. I'm sorry for that, guys. Sometimes happens. But yeah, the gap now 5.3 seconds between the Red Bull and the tight top for the P3 position. Jimmy now 3/10 behind MGK. Maybe he's going to try and overtake, but he does have a lot less ERS. And like I said earlier, that middle car gets a lot more of that DRS slipstreaming effect than the car behind. As Fleckas gets another 3-second time penalty there, so that's 2 penalties in the space of, I think, 2-3 laps. Let's see, yes, 6 seconds cumulative. So I think he's mentally a bit checked out from this race. Chris still behind Randy, the gap 2/10 there. Randy doing a good job to defend. Chris is around 40%, Randy's on 20%, I believe. Running a Sebastian Vettel tribute helmet. I did forget to mention that one. He's been showing it off a bit earlier today, so it's a good touch there from Randy. Hopefully he can do something nice in this race, but the drivers fighting for P3 remain the same. Gaps remain similar as well. David just pulling out about a 10th in this final sector for this lap on MGK, but MGK will be able to pull that gap back in the DRS. The gap 5.3 seconds still between the Red Bulls in this fight for P3 here. And maybe I think Randy could have an opportunity to catch up and join this fight, but he's going to have to push a lot harder because I know he's been struggling a bit of pace in this game, but I don't count him out, as Rowan, I think the message came from Race Control earlier, he also has a penalty for track limits. We're already on lap 14 here, so a lot of these drivers will start to box soon, maybe around lap 16, I think, for those medium tyres. Psycho gets a 3-second time penalty, so there's going to be a lot of frustration in that cockpit of his, going from P3 to last, and now he's just trying to fight for some points here. MGK not able to mount an attack on David, but like I said, look, he gains 3/10 on this straight just because of the DRS and slipstream. Jimmy staying around 5-6 there, but then David is able to pull away a bit more on the corner exits and in the higher downforce sections because he has less dirty air. Obviously the dirty air effect isn't as bad on this game. It's a bit more than the last game just to simulate some sort of dirty air, I think, but it's still easy to follow on this game, so it's not too bad. And it's also a game, so it's heavily simulated. But MGK now 7 tenths behind. He's lost a lot of time in his last sector. Maybe his tires are starting to fall off. This is going to be a crucial time to see who pits for medium tires. And actually, having said that, Jimmy has gone into the box. He's going to try an undercut here in the Haas. And that's going to mean that now David and MGK are going to have to push like mad on this in lap here. The Red Bulls should have no issue for a threat of an undercut behind, but they're going to have to coordinate some sort of pit strategy that doesn't screw the one over the other, because obviously they cannot box at the same time, but when one goes for that undercut, it could mean that they're going to be 1 second ahead of their teammates. So we'll see what happens there. But Rowan also going for medium tyres and the Alpine, maybe also trying for an undercut, and David now, he's on 57% back speed. He's going to be deploying down this whole straight, and so is MGK. He's stopped now. David has also stopped, so I believe they're both really pushing for the in-lap here. So let's see what their second sector split is, because if they are pushing for the in-lap, they should be matching the personal best. And will they be? Let's see. David matches his personal best in a sense, and so does MGK. So those guys now pushing for the in-lap, I believe. And it'll be interesting to see if Jimmy has been able to get the undercut. Obviously the undercut is not as powerful because of the colder tyre temperatures on the outlap. David getting a massive snap on the exit of turn 11 there, but keeping the car in shape. Will they both be very good on the pit lane line? And I do hope they don't cut it, as MGK has boxed, David has opted to stay out, and Randy has also chosen to go in, and Chris taking a very wide line. Randy getting a 5-second time penalty for speeding. I'm sure Chris will be howling in the Mercedes cockpit seeing that 5-second penalty. And guys who had boxed in the Red Bull for medium tyres, he will have no threat for the cars behind. But now let's see if Marius Formula can keep up the pace and try and make sure that he can stay close to his teammates so they can fight at the end of this race. And basically all the drivers now out on medium tyres. Psycho staying out. Obviously he's not going to stay in P3. He will still come out in the bottom of this train, but I think he's just going to try and see how much he can hold on to this hard tyres there. Jimmy actually, sorry, my bad, I missed it. Jimmy got ahead of MGK in the box, and that means that Jimmy should get ahead of David as well, because he's now 1 second ahead. He's on those warmer tyres. MGK is still going to have to try and get his tyres up to temperature, and that's also meant that he's now away from that DRS zone. So Jimmy pulling off a blinder there, but he will have more tyre wear. I believe it's around 3% a lap on the mediums, if I remember correctly. So he'll have around a 3% disadvantage compared to MGK, and potentially a 6% disadvantage to David. But will David box? I'm riding aboard with him now. Will he stay within the pit lane lines on the entry? If he does decide to box, that Marius Formula has boxed in the Red Bull. David also boxing now, being respectful of the track limits into the box, and this will now be crucial. I'll ride on board with Jimmy actually, because this will be the battle for P3 there. Maybe Jimmy pulling off a blinder. Let's find out. As they're now approaching into turns 14 here. A very long pit lane on this track. I believe it's around a 30-second pit lane loss, if I remember correctly. But MGK now just trying to get into that DRS of 1 second. And now let's see David. Where's David going to be? MGK and Jimmy are now firmly ahead of David, but David will have 6% fresher tyres. But what will that mean? Will he be able to use those fresher tyres? And that's also meant that Randy has now undercut David here in the Aston Martin. So David going from P3 to P6, and now under threat from Rowan and Chris. Those two on warmer tyres, sorry, not fresh tyres. So they will, and as you can see, those warmer tyres allowing Rowan to get tucked up right behind David here. Will Rowan try and go for an overtake on this straight? It's now or never, in my opinion, because David had some top 3 pace there. And Rowan now, he's deploying. David is also deploying, but Rowan has that DRS. Is he going to try to go down the inside of turn 8? Yes, he will. Will David leave space? Chris also trying to join the fight. Will he try and go down the inside of David? No, he can't, but Rowan now overtaking David here. But can Chris do anything to David? No, he can't. And now will David try and overtake? He's deploying. Rowan is not deploying, but I don't think David can go into turn 10. Will he try? Rowan leaving him the space actually. It's a good racing there, but David understeering into Rowan. And that's meant that Rowan has now lost the position, and Chris has also been forced wide there, or losing the car, I'm not too sure. And David now pushing his way past Rowan there. So I'm not too sure if David just understeered or that was tactical, but I'm not going to comment because I'll let the stewards decide if there's any incidents. But MGK and Jimmy, wow, what an undercut. And also Randy now 2 seconds ahead of David there. If Randy can just keep this pace, keep his battery, and stay ahead of David, there's going to be a good P5 position there for him in the Aston Martin. MGK now half a second behind Jimmy. And what was I telling you guys about earlier? The Red Bull gap is now 1.8 seconds. That's what the undercut did for Guyton there. And now it's up to Marius Formula to try and catch up to his teammate. I'm not sure if they're gonna form some team orders or not, but Marius Formula are gaining 3/10 in one sector, so I'm guessing they're going to try and allow themselves to fight. I'm not too sure, but obviously as a racing driver you kind of don't want your teammate there, but they've been working so good together. The gap already 1.2 seconds, so maybe they are going to be coordinating a chance for Marius Formula to get within the DRS, and then they can fight it out for the win. I'm not too sure, I don't want to speculate too much. But Jimmy now under pressure from MGK in that McLaren. Will MGK try into turn 11? No, he won't, but getting very close behind the rear wing of the Haas there. I think these two will have a nice battle. I know they're very respectful drivers, so it'll be nice to see. And Randy 1.8 seconds ahead of David. David not making such an impression on this lap, I don't feel. Randy just really needs to keep it on track. He's doing a good job so far. As the two Red Bulls now basically in the DRS range of each other, and I think now it's going to be a free fight for both of them. Also MGK now still behind the Haas there. I'm not sure if MGK will try and go for the overtake this lap. MGK on around 20% ERS, the Haas on 15%. So MGK has a 5% ERS advantage compared to Jimmy. It's not going to be much of a difference, but it could be a slight difference he needs, you know. David now 1.6 seconds behind Randy. Randy obviously has that 5-second time penalty for speeding in the box. So he's obviously going to lose a position most likely. But that could mean that he's going to drop down to P8. I did forget to gloss over that, my bad. Marius Formula now 2/10 behind the Red Bull, his Red Bull teammate there. So maybe just cooling off a bit, and I think he's not clipping down the straight, so he's not losing that much time. These two still fighting there. MGK still behind the Haas, not able to overtake into turn 8 and 9 there. David now 1.5 seconds behind Randy. Rowan still following behind him, so we maybe could have a round 2 fight between these two, and maybe Chris will try and slip one down the inside and be a bit sneaky there. Chris is a bit of a sneaky guy, so we'll see. MGK still behind the Haas there, fight for P3. They're not going to have that much of a threat from the car behind. David kind of threw his race away and he stayed out for 2 extra laps. So yeah, I mean, we've had a few drivers try and fight for the P3. It's not worked out, but these two are in the fight. They've done a good job to keep it on track. And MGK just giving Jimmy a little bit of a nod, saying, I am here, I am behind you. I think MGK may try push for an overtake on this lap. If not, then I think the smart strategy from MGK is just to stay behind Jimmy, recharge his batteries, and then go for an overtake towards the end of the race, and then push along with his ERS advantage. But we'll see what these drivers do. I have full faith in their abilities and race strategy. So yeah, I mean, McLaren's right behind. He's actually deploying on this lap. He's stopped deploying now. Usually if you stop deploying a bit early on the straight, you're not going to fight. You just want to try and keep that small gap. And actually Jimmy is now clipping. Jimmy on 10% ERS there. So he's going to be losing a bit of time on the straight. You lose a bit of horsepower when you're clipping because the battery's trying to recharge. And actually Rowan's overtaken David there. I'm not sure David made a mistake, but Rowan has now overtaken David there. But Rowan is now clipping on the straight. He's got nothing in the tank, but David has 15%. So will David try and go down here? He gets a really nice slingshot through turn 10, and now he's on the outside. Rowan doing a very good job, leaving just enough space there, no contact made, so good job there from Rowan. Rowan obviously one of the best drivers to go side by side with. And now into turn 12. David can't do anything into turn 12, and that just means that Rowan keeps his position. Chris not able to capitalize on the fighting there, sadly. And Cycle gets another 3-second time penalty, so he's really just ended this race, I think. This is sadly, but obviously, like, when your race gets ended, you psychologically check out sometimes. But he's still going on. He's still going to get a point, and that's what matters in this race. But let's see what Rowan can do, because if Rowan can catch up the back of Randy there, I mean, he doesn't need to fight Randy too hard, because Randy has that 5-second time penalty. NGK still not able to get past the half there. And the gap 1 second now, so Rowan doing a lot more of an impression to Randy than David could. Now within that 1 second, I think Rowan will get DRS. Will he? Yes, he does. So he did enough. He did more than David could to try and get into the DRS there of Randy. So Randy's going to be under pressure from these guys. David trying to go down the inside, not having enough straight line speed. Obviously Rowan's still going to be clipping down these straights. He's gained a bit of battery, but still not enough. David, will he get a good exit on the exit of turn 9 there? He's not destroying, so I don't think he's going to try for an overtake. Maybe on the exit of turn 10 if he gets a nice swing shot, as you can see just here, and he's deploying now, trying to go down the inside. Will he truly make it down the inside? Rowan leaving in the space, but David slightly contact made there. I think that's just a racing incident or collision there. Rowan trying down the inside. This is where you want to be for turn 12 if you want to try and overtake, but Rowan not able to do anything there, sadly. And will he try and go down the inside? Yes, he is into turn 14, but that's going to be the outside for turn 15. David will be able to squeeze Rowan out if he wanted to, but he's not going to do that. Rowan getting the switch back, and now it's the drag race. Rowan getting the DRS, so playing a very good strategy there, getting the DRS, and he remains ahead of David. But they haven't lost too much time to Randy, which is amazing, because the gap was 1 second and now it's 1.2. So these two have not lost too much time fighting. I think Randy's struggling a bit. It's also getting a bit more cloudy, so could there be a bit of rain towards the end of the race? I'm not too sure. The weather can change pretty quickly sometimes around this track. But yeah, can Rowan get that DRS? It's going to be very tight. He's on the limit. I'm not sure if he's got it this time. He's going to be very close. We'll see on his rear wing if he gets it or not. Yes, he does. So he's done a good job again to get it. But then look at David now. He's going to be right behind Rowan again. The McLaren of MGK now fighting. He's deploying. They're going to go side by side into turn 10. This battle for P3 is a bit more interesting in my opinion. And Jimmy just able to stay ahead as they go through turn 10 there. Nothing into turn 11. The McLaren not able to do anything. He's a bit more on the inside, so he had a bit more tyre grip and tyre life to go through there on the inside, take a tighter line, but nothing he could do. Rowan managing to stay ahead of David. Rowan now trying to look ahead to Randy. He just needs to make sure that he can look ahead and not focus too much by David. Obviously David is still there, but if he focuses to push ahead, he can slowly push away from David as well. MGK now 110. They're going to be fighting on the straight. They make a bit of contact. Jimmy really being aggressive on the inside there, but MGK not able to do anything to turn 1. And it look really on the limit. I was hoping these guys would have a respectful battle, but that was very on the limit there. But luckily no incident or crash there. Rowan now 8 tenths behind Randy. David 4 tenths behind him, and Chris another 6 tenths behind David. I think MGK went really wide there, and Jimmy just went wide there now. But it's going to be round 2. Jimmy going very aggressively on the inside, trying not to give MGK any sort of slipstream. MGK not deploying anything, Jimmy clipping, but MGK is equally clipping as well, but he's got the DRS, so it's not that much of an issue for the McLaren there. And actually not able to do an overtake there, but are they going to try through turn 10 once again? And I also think that Rowan is right behind Randy there. I hope there's no collision there. David's only 3 tenths behind as well for that fight for P5. But Rowan also has that penalty he needs to be considerate about, so he doesn't need to fight David too hard. Ultimately, if David's still behind, he's going to lose that position anyway. The McLaren not able to do anything on the Haas. Jimmy doing a very good job to try and keep this P3. He's going to make his car as wide as possible, as you saw on the pit straight there, giving MGK just enough space to have two tyres on the track. Right on the limit there, but will MGK try again into turn 1? Let's see. He's tucking up right behind. I don't think he has enough straight line speed, and he's not close enough. I don't think there's enough straight for him to try and challenge turn 1. There isn't. And looking behind, Rowan now firmly behind. Randy there. Randy on 22% and Rowan clipping actually. So is actually no, David has 20%. I thought I saw the red light there, but it's not. So David has a bit more ERS. Chris also has a bit more ERS, but he's also on the limit of clipping there. Rowan gets another 3-second time penalty. That's his chances for a P5 over, regardless of if he could get the gap or not. As Marius Former has left the session, so he's disconnected. His car has disconnected. He's got 12 seconds on the car behind, so he shouldn't lose too much time. He should be able to get into the session quickly. But that's meant that this fight for P1 and 2 is going to be tight. And actually, MGK and Jimmy collide in their fight for P3 there. It's all going crazy now on lap 24. We've got the Red Bull leaving, these two colliding, and now that means Randy and Rowan are in this fight now, in my opinion. Even though they have the penalties, they still try and do it for pride on track. Randy not putting up too much of a fight on Rowan there into turn 10. And wow, okay, and actually David now hitting the back of the McLaren there. I'm trying to find a good camera for you guys. I'm sorry. Marius Former has been able to join the track, the race. He's now 2.3 seconds behind his teammate as MGK and David still fighting in this final sector. David having to go off the track. MGK having the inside line. Will David try and go down the inside into turn 15? MGK covers that off. He makes contact with Randy. So in that defensive movement, as you can see, that's just affected MGK's exit there, going too tight on the line. And David has been able to go through. So wow, actually on the end of this race we're getting a bit more action here. But what a shame for Marius Forman. And now he's 3 seconds behind his teammate. That fight for the win may be over because they're on the end of the race. And I don't think they're going to be that friendly towards each other because it's for a race win. They've done enough teamwork, in my opinion, to warrant a little bit of a race at the end. But I don't think it's the time now for them to push. Fight now. I think Guyton will just take that win, in my opinion. But Jimmy in P3 right now. He has no penalties. Rowan is behind on 6 seconds worth of penalties. Randy's on 5 seconds worth of penalties. So the cars behind Randy and Rowan will, as of right now, go ahead of these two. But Rowan really needs to try and get at least 1 second advantage on Randy so he can finish ahead of Randy. Randy now under pressure from David. David on 6% of battery. Randy on 5%. So they're both going to be clipping quite heavily on this race. Actually, a lot of these cars, Rowan, Randy, David, I'm not sure if MGK is okay, and Chris is just on the limit, but we have Randy, we have Rowan, Randy, and David all clipping down these straights, so they're all losing crucial horsepower on the straights. Jimmy now 12.9 seconds behind, so the gap around 13 seconds, which is round about what it was when Marius Formula left, I believe. But the gap's still 3 seconds between the top two, so I don't think there's going to be any team orders or team play there. It's just going to be a straight fight now towards the end. Onto the penultimate lap now. Randy in the lofty heights of P5 here in the Aston Martin. He does have that 5-second time penalty, which will demote him. But if he can get ahead of Rowan, or stay within the 1 second of Rowan, he will get a position over Rowan in the championship. At the end of this race. David taking a lot of commitment there into turns 3, 4, and 5, and Jimmy not able to slowly pulling away, like around the 10th lap, I think, towards compared to Rowan, but he's dropping back quite severely from the top two. Those top two are in a different league right now, especially around this track. Randy just hoping that he can just stay behind Rowan there. Makes a bit of a mistake on the exit there though, and that's just going to invite David actually. David deploying, even though he has nothing left in his battery, he's still going to try to go down the inside. Let's hope this can be a clean one. I beg. They're going to go down he's going to go down the inside into turn 11 as well. Randy trying to stick it around the outside. Will David give him the space? I really hope so. Yes, he will. Randy not having enough minimum speed to go around the outside there. So that's one position for David. He doesn't need to fight too hard because he's going to be ahead of these guys on the timing screens when the checkered flag falls. We are on the final lap now. The Red Bull of Guyton in P1, Marius Formula P2. These two working very well at the start of the race, but Marius Formula having the network issue and losing, getting kicked out of the lobby. But he is back. He's now lost 2 seconds to his teammate. Jimmy P3 right now in the Haas, 14 seconds behind the top two. And actually MGK and Randy are now fighting into turn 1. MGK going round the outside into turn 1 and able to stay ahead on the exit of turn 2. So good job there from MGK. He's still in the fight for P4 here. Because of course Rowan has that penalty, but David and actually I think MGK and Randy have had a bit of contact. I'm not too sure, and now they both have properly spun out, and that's MGK's chances gone. Chris, the sly little fox, now into P6. Can he try and get a net P5 here? Because Rowan has that penalty. David going right in ahead of him into turn 8 here, trying to overtake, not making it possible. Can he get a better exit? He's on 5%. Rowan's on 5%. They both are clipping on this straight, but David will have that ERS advantage into turn 10 there. And I'm going to try and get on board with the Red Bulls because they're now 2 seconds together. Obviously, there's not much they can do. But now, Rowan trying to go around the outside of turn 11. Will he make it work? Rowan going round the outside of David in turn 11. But I kind of want to ride on board with the Red Bulls. Both of them in formation, 1 and 2. Dominant display from them. And Jimmy in P3. But I want to ride on board with David here. Good job from the Red Bull guys. I apologize, but this battle now here, even though Rowan has a penalty, giving everything he has. He's on the outside of turn 15. He's going to have a better exit there. And he's got that DRS, and on track. He's going to finish P4 ahead of David. But obviously on the timing screens, I think Chris will also get ahead of Rowan. Yes, he will. And Randy, that 5-second time penalty in P7. Psycho ALB P8, MGK P9. What a shame, because he was doing a very good job and in the fight for P3 there. And Fleckas in the McLaren P10 in the race. But wow, what a race. Good job from the two Red Bulls. And nice camaraderie between the two guys, and slowing down just a tiny bit so they can both go across the line a bit together. But yeah, what a dominant race from the Red Bull drivers here around France. Amazing job from these guys, amazing job. As you now see the podium celebrations here. A familiar sight, 2 Red Bulls, but also a Haas in P3. But yeah, what a job from 2 Red Bulls, just in a league of their own, like I've just said previously. Good job from these guys. And we will run through the race results in a sec. So let's just then the 2 Red Bulls 1 and 2, Haas P3. Good job from Jimmy there. A few incidents to be noted, I think, by the stewards, and we'll see if there's any penalties because of those after. But here's your race results, guys. Guyton P1, Marius Formula P2, Red Bull 1-2, Marius Formula obviously getting that fastest lap earlier in the race. Jimmy P3, David P4, Chris P5, Rowan P6, Randy P7, MGK P8, Psycho P9, decent recovery, getting 2 points there. Fleckas P10, Lumi, Mali, Jonah all retired earlier in the race. And obviously, as you can see there, Rowan had 2 3-second time penalties, and Randy had a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and Psycho, I think, had 2 or 3 track limit penalties there. But that's it for today. Yeah, interesting race. A bit of a lull period in the middle, but we had some tight battles on this track. We will see you guys next week in Division 1, and I hope you guys enjoyed this race. Good night.